Yay, we are live. We are live. Hello, everyone. All right, let me do my thing for a moment. Check the settings. Make sure everything looks good. Audio looks good. Video looks good. As always, if anybody notices any buffering or weirdness, let me know. But I think we are golden. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another live Q&A. Happy Sunday. Happy weekend or start of the week if it's Monday for you, wherever in the world you may be. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see. Rose, hello. Happy Sunday from Montana. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hello, Gordana. Hello, Mystical, Nita, Northwest Wind. Hi. Happy Sunday from the Netherlands. Wow, thank you, Labby. Thank you for being here. And good evening to you. Lexi of Poems and Roses. I love your username, by the way. That's beautiful. Good to see so many faces. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. I like to give it just a few seconds to let people get the notification, come on in, get comfortable, and whatnot. But we'll jump in here in just a moment. Let's see. Marcia. Hello. Girl, how have you been? Carlo, Nita. Got a good number of people here. Belwick. Hi. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. My favorite day is hello, Mohammed. Happy Sunday. I am doing very well. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Lisa, Anne. Already got some questions rolling in. Excellent. Excellent. And I just want to say that you guys have been killing it lately. A lot of the questions over the last few live streams, especially, I mean, there's always good questions that come through, but in the last few live streams in particular, I can see that there's a lot of introspection and reflection going on here, and I love to see it. And so I just want to give my hats off to all of you. And thank you for being here. Alrighty. We have got, I'm covered in dust. We got a good number of people in here, about 50 or so. And of course, more people are going to come in. That number's going to grow. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Thank you guys so much. Again, thank you for being here and for joining for another live Q&A where we talk all things manifestation, law of assumption, and how to better understand, get a deeper understanding of these teachings so that you can recreate your life however you desire to be. So just a couple of quick fun announcements, as I usually do before jumping in. First, I have extended the flash sale. I've got 30% off my masterclasses and workshop bundle. I got the links for that down below. That coupon is good through the 19th at 11:59 Pacific time. So all day through the 19th, for those who may be watching and getting that information after the recording. All of my resources are down there. Last week to register for the next round of the Mindset Mastery program, the 12-week program that really, that is my baby. That is something I put so much of my time and resource into that so that you can have the best and most broad understanding of the law in a wonderful setting. You'll be working with me live every week. But without further ado, with that all being said, you know where to find it down in the description box below. Last thing really quick, and this one's fun. I've had a number of people reach out asking if I can have kittens join us for the live stream since I am a foster mom. And the little runts are in actually a service appointment. They're at their 2-week appointment today. So unfortunately, I mean, unless if my husband gets back before we cut the live, then I'll go ahead and show everybody the little babies. But if you can see, I got the little playpen already set up back there. So if not this week, definitely tune in next week and we'll have some kitten fun time for sure. But anyways, I know we've already got a lot of questions that are rolled in, so let's go ahead and get started once I have my caffeine. Super important. All right. Mystical's got a good question. Hey, Missy, when we visualize a scene, how do we do it without force? Like, do we do a scene when we are relaxed and playful and feel good only? This is a good question, because I mention all the time, and it bears repeating. This is not something that is going to be obtainable or easy if you're trying to do this with force. And by force, I mean if you're trying to make yourself visualize, if you're trying to use that like conscious effort behind it, that's only going to make it feel more difficult. So yeah, being in a relaxed place, like getting yourself relaxed, is key. That is key. And yeah, if you're in a playful and feel good mood, that's even, I mean, that's fantastic, maybe better. But at the very least, we want to get ourselves relaxed. So if we're trying to visualize or trying to affirm or like trying from a place of feeling anxious or stressed and tense, that's going to feel really challenging. There's gonna be a lot of resistance there, notable resistance there. So I always recommend, if you're feeling tense, if you're feeling stressed, anxious, frustrated, first focus on alleviating that. Alleviating that first. Getting yourself as relaxed as possible first before just trying to jump into your visual scene or affirmation or any kind of imaginal act that you resonate with. Yeah. So getting yourself relaxed is going to be immensely beneficial. It's going to be super helpful, and and of course practice. Practice if you perhaps are not very familiar with visualization, if you haven't played a lot with visualization, if you haven't been a visual person before, it can take a little bit of practice, right? The Our imagination is very much like a muscle, so start with just everyday things that we can get a picture of in our mind, and just continue to build up. Right, picture an object, like pick up an object, examine it, get a feel for it, and try to replicate. Close your eyes and replicate what you have just seen in your mind to the best of your ability. It may take a little bit of practice, but you will absolutely find it getting sharper and more clear the more that you practice doing so. But yeah, getting relaxed first is a must. It's a must. Good question, though. Hi, Missy. Damn it. Hi, Missy. When persisting in imagination, is it more effective to use one particular scene, or can you create a brand new scene each practice? Yeah, you can create a new scene if yeah. If you want to create a new scene each time, totally fine. That's going to come down to personal preference. Some people like sticking to one scene and focusing on that one for a time, and other people like to spice it up and switch it up, and that works too. Most importantly, it's what resonates and what feels better, what feels more natural, what comes more naturally to you. Keyword is naturalness, always. So yeah, whatever one's best, just as long as you're having fun with it, can't go wrong. Oh, Nita's got a good question. Hi, Missy. I had a happy childhood, middle income family, really no complaints. What could have caused negative subconscious beliefs? Can they arise later in life? Thank you. Yes, this one's important because there is a misconception that all of our beliefs are formed in the first 7 years of life. And then after that, we never form or change our beliefs ever. Not true. Our self-concept is always growing, evolving, changing all throughout the different stages of our life. So, I mean, yes, the first 7 years are especially important, as far as uh, forming this concept of self. That in the first 7 years is when the self concept is really formed. In those years, we're very much like a sponge, or just observing and taking everything in, and gaining a perspective of the world around us. But we absolutely continue to create new beliefs, we continue to develop and evolve just as a concept, as a self concept. That's always happening. So adolescent years are very, very important when it comes to the self concept and the development of the self concept. So if you like, first loves, first relationships, a lot of firsts happen in that adolescent time, and that will greatly shape who you become as a person, right? So yeah, if there were any areas that happened later in life, even well into adulthood, anything that may have happened that formed a belief, formed an assumption, and beliefs and assumptions typically form when something big or impactful happens to us. Like we have like an event that evoked a very strong reaction, a very strong response. That's what typically will leave such a strong impression that we'll use that as a belief or as like a guide going forward. But yeah, super important. I talk about that a lot in my self-concept masterclass, and I will be coming out with a video talking more in depth about self-concept in general. But yeah, super important to note. It's not just the first 7 years. Thank you for the super chat, Chrissy. Can I manifest can I manifest marriage to SP who's 2 hours away? He can't move, and if I moved, I'd lose custody of my child. Is it possible to marry my SP and move to him with my daughter even though my ex wouldn't allow it? Anything's possible. Yeah, anything's possible. Yeah. If what you ultimately desire is marriage to SP, it doesn't matter if he lived on the other side of the planet. That wouldn't matter. I know we're going to have a very difficult time believing that because we're very fixed on the circumstances, and this is where we can have a really difficult time trying to manifest. If we're constantly looking at the circumstances around us and seeing like, yeah, but these obstacles are in place, so is this going to be possible? Um, does not ever matter. The circumstances, and when we say the circumstances don't matter, that's because despite whatever may be going on, whatever perceived limitations or blocks might be in the 3D, you can still imagine you and SP married. You can still, in your imagination, construct scenes or things that would imply that the two of you are married, and let yourself feel into that. Let yourself enjoy that. Let yourself go there for the sake of it feels amazing to do so, right? If it's a desire, of course, having experiencing that desire in imagination, of course, is going to feel good, right? Um, don't see any reason why it wouldn't. So we have to do away with the conditions, right? And this is what Neville will refer to as conditioning your desire. Conditioning your desire basically means that we're taking the factors of the 3D as reasons to doubt that this is possible. Where, oh, because this person lives far away, I can't manifest that. Or because, these stipulations are in place, because I've got these barriers, I can't imagine. We can always imagine regardless. And that's all that is asked. That's all we're asked to do. So throw away the circumstances of the 3D. They never matter. Anything is possible because we can imagine anything, no matter what. Just going back to my spot. Hello, everyone. I'm seeing some familiar faces and some new ones. This is awesome. Where's my spot? Good morning, Missy. When you feel like you have saturated your subconscious mind, is it normal sometimes to feel detachment from your SP? Like feeling kind of a little distant? Good question. Yeah, that feeling is actually normal. Um, if I'm understanding correctly. When we when we go to the end, when we saturate our mind, so to speak, um, and especially if we've been consistently doing that, we will notice that the desire is gonna lessen, right? It's not gonna feel like this strong, like, desiring or strong urge, I need this person. That's going to lessen and subside, and it can feel almost like whoop, call them back later. Sorry about that. But it'll feel very much like, yeah, it hard to describe it into words, but it is almost a sense of distance. You have to think of it like this. When you are already like, if you're imagining already being together, right? You've already been together, you're going to the end, so this is, past the perhaps even past the honeymoon stage. It's gonna feel sometimes just like a knowing. It doesn't even there's may not be a strong emotional response. Sometimes there is, but sometimes there's not, and that's totally normal. Doesn't mean that anything's wrong. Doesn't mean that anything's wrong. Yeah, if you need me to elaborate, let me know. How do I determine how much self-love work I need? The self-love. So when it comes to self-love, and I don't wanna come across as dismissive of self-love because it goes without saying, it's important to love ourselves. We should love ourselves. That is always gonna be ideal. Um, but what I say, it's a requirement. Like, you need to fixate on, like, self-love affirmations to manifest a person. Not necessarily. Like, and I guess a way that you can gauge is just ask yourself, you know, like, ask yourself honestly, like, do I feel worthy of this relationship? Do I feel deserving of this relationship? Do I feel like we are a compatible couple, and that we would be able to enrich each other's lives? If the answer is yes, then I don't think you need any work in that department. I don't think you need any work in that department. This is more about the it's more about the belief, the knowing aspect. Like, can you go all in with the faith and knowing that what you imagine is what ultimately becomes your 3D reality? Because if you can do that, you can do anything, whether there's self-love there or not. And again, I wanna be clear. We should always love ourselves. That is always going to be the ideal. Not advocating that that should be overlooked or ignored, but it's sometimes overemphasized and not really, like I said, if you just look within and say, like, "Am I deserving of this? And do I feel worthy of this?" That's good enough. That's all the self that's all the self-love work you need. And I do have a video coming about self-love. Yeah. Alright. Where am I? Hello from Spain. Hello. Hello, cats. I had a really fascinating experience. I fell asleep in meditation and I dreamt about jumping to a new reality, like a portal, and my desire played out in my dream. I woke up with no more doubts. That's amazing. That's amazing. And that is the power of the drowsy state. That is the power of the drowsy state, which is why one thing that Neville would always talk about like consistently is making sure that whatever you're taking with you into sleep, into the drowsy state, or when you are in deep meditation is so important. Yeah, is you will, yeah, jumping into a new reality, going to that desired outcome in your dream. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Do not overlook the drowsy state. Hello, Miss Coco. Hey, Missy, hope you're having a great weekend. Thank you, Alexandria. Can you possibly give more tips to practice everyone as you pushed out? I'm having a hard time grasping the fact that other people aren't separate from us. Thanks. Absolutely. Um, practice everyone as you pushed out. Well, everyone as you pushed out is how to practice it. You mean how to build your faith in it? I take it because it's not really a technique. But I think what you mean is how do we build our faith and trust that everyone is us pushed out? Yeah, I mean the best way to do it, probably the easiest way, if you're not quite rock solid in your faith yet, I would just observe and document your interactions with other people. And perhaps not even just like a like romantic partner or pursuit, but even friends, family, coworkers, it could be anybody, but note your interactions with others and note what your presumptions are about them. Like if you have assumptions about other people or people specifically, uh, take note of that. Really observe and get to know what are my assumptions about these people, and note how they show up in your 3D. And what you're going to see is that whatever you're assuming about somebody, maybe it's somebody specific, or maybe it's more of a general assumption, but you're going to see that people always show up in that way. And even if you need to document times that you notice it, like if you have a thought like, oh, this person's probably going to flake on me, and then they do, or oh, it'd be nice to talk to this person. I haven't seen them in a while, and then they reach out to you. Like documenting, because it's easy for us to forget. It's easy, even if we are observing, it's easy for us to forget just how many times manifestations come to pass because we're always manifesting, right? So, just the observing what you have, like what your assumptions are about different people in your life, and note how they're showing up for you, and then start to assume something different. Start to assume if you have an assumption about perhaps you have a coworker that's super annoying or super mean to you, right? They're just a total dick for no reason and you want to see them show up nicer. Start imagining them as nice. Start seeing them in your mind as showing up and being kind to you and always saying hi to you. And watch what happens, right? But yeah, things like that is what I would do to really begin to build the faith and trust that everyone is as pushed out. Because yes, it appears separate. It's not. It is not. Hello, hello. Hello from let me see. Hey, Missy, first of all, thank you so much for the awesome content. Oh, thank you. You are so sweet and you are so welcome. Why does revision feel like I'm lying to myself? I've watched your video, just have to apply, just feels like a lie, but I know I change my assumptions. Good question. Yeah, if revision feels like lying to yourself, that's totally normal. And that's a common misconception about revision is that we need to convince ourselves that something else happened in the past, something different than what we perhaps experienced in the past, we're trying to lie to ourselves or convince ourselves. That's not what we're here to do, because we can't lie to ourselves. Like, we can't lie to ourselves. God cannot be mocked. We're not gonna be able to cleverly coerce ourselves or convince ourselves otherwise. This is not about lying. Revision's not about lying. It's about understanding, going back to the idea that creation is finished, right? All states of consciousness exist, past, present, and future, right? So every aspect of reality is already complete. So if that is the case, then I'm just allowing myself to entertain the idea. I'm just letting myself imagine what it would have been like, right? If this really shitty thing happened and it sucked, well, what if this happened instead? What if this other outcome had happened? What if this more ideal outcome? Like what would that have been like? How would that feel if that was the case? Right? And you're just letting yourself approach this. You're letting yourself play with this idea. Um, because again, we can't lie to ourselves. And this is where a lot of people struggle with revision because they are trying to lie to themselves, and that's never going to work. Mm-mm. Is what you're going to find is the more you let yourself just play with the idea, even this hypothetical concept, it's going to start to feel more real for you. Because here's the thing, memories are malleable, and we have the science to back this up. We have studies, multiple studies that have been done showing that memories are not fixed ever. And if we recall a memory, like if we bring a memory up into our mind, there's a period of maybe an hour or two where that memory is completely malleable. And we can change it as we see fit before it sort of like settles back down and reconsolidates and kind of goes back into the storage of the mind. So that's what we're really taking advantage of here. Memories are malleable. They're moldable as clay, and we're just letting ourselves explore a different outcome because creation is finished, right? So do not try to convince yourself that something different happened. You will be met with resistance. Just- yeah, we will try to reject that notion. Missy, my SP is back. However, it looks to be a partial manifestation. He still hasn't said I love you. Do I just maintain persisting or do I need to change my story? Thoughts? Um, well, I would persist in the changed story. So both. I would change the story about how, he still isn't saying I love you. He still isn't showing up. Um, don't take any of that into consideration, right? Don't take the 3D and how they're showing up into consideration. Always stick to what you desire to experience. If it's not showing up how you desire to experience it, don't accept it because it's never final. The 3D is never final. So yeah, I would change the story. Whatever, if there may be things that you're holding on to, like, oh, he hasn't changed, he's still being distant. Does he really love me? Is he playing games? Like all that shit gotta go. Like get rid of it. And in imagination, you are only experiencing what you desire, and everything else goes away. Yeah, and persist in that. Is it okay to once I've is it okay that once I feel in peace with my desire to go on and, for example, focus on another wish, even though it hasn't shown up in my 3D yet? Or do you advise to still go there in imagination? Absolutely. Yeah, once you feel solid in one desire, like once you have felt that wish fulfilled, once you have sort of impressed the idea, so to speak, you can absolutely move to whatever else you want to imagine. Whatever desire that you want to experience, you can imagine that. Yeah, we don't have to fixate on one thing until it shows up in 3D. No. No, because all it takes is once we feel that wish fulfilled, once we've imagined and it has elicited a response or a reaction, that seed's impressed. Like that seed is planted. And, so long as we're not noticing double-mindedness and things like that, we can absolutely move on to something else because when that happens, it's done. It's done. So, yeah. Hello, dear Missy. I'm watching from Greece, sending lots of love and gratitude. Oh, thank you, Christina. Thank you for being here. I think I'm Christinaki? Is it Christinaki? I hope I haven't been saying your name wrong this whole time. Thank you for being here. Hey, Missy, is it the more we imagine or worry about something, the more likely that thing is going to happen? I mean, is it the more we imagine or worry about something, the more likely it's going to happen? Uh, that's how it works. The things that show up in 3D are what we have been imagining. Uh, More specifically, what we have been believing, what we have been feeling into, right? Sort of feeling as true. So if you're noticing things that are worrisome, things that are not ideal, if you notice yourself imagining things or feeling worried, and ideally we want to revise. We want to condition ourselves away from that. Allow ourselves to perhaps imagine something more lovely because we can go anywhere in our mind. We don't have to fixate on all of the things that we're worried about. I know it can seem difficult to do so. Our mind seems to want to go to all of the worst case scenarios, but we don't have to accept any of that. We don't have to accept any of that. So yeah, this is a practice of getting more familiar with imagining things that are lovely and desirable versus imagining things that are not. Hello. Hello, NM Venus. Can the old story of not being chosen in love play out in other areas as well? For instance, having trouble getting a new job, even though it has always been easy before. Yeah, yeah. When it comes to more of the general beliefs, more of our say core beliefs, things like I'm never chosen, whether that be specifically in love or just in general, can show up in other aspects of life. Yeah. I'm not good enough. I'm always being overlooked. That can happen in love and career. Yeah, the core beliefs can manifest in all different aspects of life, which is why it's so important that we continue to reshape this self-concept, right? Why so much emphasis is on the self-concept, because that is what determines everything that we experience. But yeah. The good news, as always, is you can change those beliefs. You can change all of those beliefs because beliefs are not facts. They ain't facts. Sometimes I need to check the 3D since I'm in contact with SP. Any tips on a game plan I can utilize when I do so? I don't want to react. Good question. What I guess first, little confused on sometimes you need to check the 3D since you are in contact. Do you mean like since you reach out to her? Uh, or is like sometimes I need to check the 3D, like I need to stalk them on social media because we're in contact. Like, do you see what I mean? And I want to be sure because we don't necessarily have to check the 3D, even if we're in contact. But if like if what you're saying is you have a planned phone call, you have a planned time to talk coming up, and things like that, getting ready to meet or have a long talk, whatever that might be, I would imagine, well, first focus on decompression and trying to get relaxed before the call, before the meetup, before you know that you're going to be seeing them. Focus on just getting yourself relaxed and as anxious and stress free as possible. Anxious free and stress free as possible. No, it's always easier said than done. But imagine at the end of the day and just saying, wow, what an incredible conversation that was. What an amazing meetup that was. Right. So see yourself from the end of the day's perspective already experiencing that lovely encounter, if that makes sense. And that's typically how I would approach if you know that you're going to be talking to them or meeting with them, and you feel nervous, imagine it's the end of the day and everything already went fantastic. I hope that makes sense. How to ensure you reach your full-fledged manifestation after one's SP is back? Good question. So, how to make sure that your manifestation unfolds completely exactly how you want it to go, um, and not perhaps show up partially, right? If I'm misunderstanding, let me know. Um, and that's a good question, and the key there is continue to go to the end. One of the areas that we tend to fall off the horse is once we start to see movement, once perhaps SPs come back into the picture and they're communicating with us again, we get sucked right back into the 3D and the old story. It's almost like we forget everything that we've learned here and just like fixate immediately back on SP. No, continue to go to the end always, always, no matter what. So if they're showing up but not fully and completely, continue to imagine, continue to go there in your mind and really feel and trust that to be so, right? Like really let yourself feel into that reality because it is a reality. Whatever you're imagining is in it that is reality. It's not the 3D. It's not just make believe fairy tale land. What you're imagining is just as real. 'Cause imagination is the only reality. So continue to go there. If you let yourself get veered off and fixated back on the 3D, that's where things tend to get messy again, and where we self-sabotage. Ask me how I know. Thank you for the super chat, Becca. Thank you, thank you. Hey, Missy, I'm feeling good about my self concept and how I view SP. However, I feel guilty for not wanting to do techniques as much as I used to. Is how I'm feeling a normal part of the process? Absolutely, it is. Yeah. Yeah. The more that you've been imagining, if you have been, say, consistent with going to the end, um, and you're feeling good within yourself, you're feeling good about SP, you're naturally gonna you're gonna naturally not want to continue to do techniques, right? That urge or desire or need to do techniques is going to subside. Yeah, that's completely normal. Do not feel guilty. The techniques are just to help you live in the end, right? It's to help you imagine this desired outcome and maintain it as much and often as possible. And once accepted subconsciously, like once you've sort of planted that seed, so to speak, you don't have to keep using techniques if you don't want to. Totally normal. Hi, Missy. Is it really true if a seed has been planted, it must come to pass? Even if we have a bad mental diet after planting the seed. Good question. Because the answer depends. So, if a seed has been planted or a subconscious impression has been left, uh, it must come to pass unless we then doubt the process or essentially double-mindedness is the only thing that can sort of dig up the seed again, and then we replant it, and then we dig it up again, and then we replant it, and that's typically the roller coaster we go on. But for example, if say you're trying to manifest an SP and you've solidified that, there is a knowing that an unshakable knowing that this is done, and then perhaps you have a bad day, perhaps work absolutely sucked, or you know somebody cut you off in traffic, whatever. Like that's not gonna disrupt the seed. Do you know what I mean? That in and of itself. Not that I recommend letting yourself get angry all the time. I'd still recommend revising it, but yeah, having a day where we're just kind of irritated about perhaps other things that happened, it is not in and of itself going to ruin the manifestation. Um, what does disrupt the seed is doubt and double-mindedness. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. But even if we do disrupt that seed, even if we do uproot it, we can always plant it again, right? So do not fear. Oh, you guys are so sweet. All right. I am so lost. Where was I? In one of your videos, you have talked a lot about inner work and self concept. How did you do the inner work? Childhood trauma gave me a bad self concept. Could you please elaborate on inner work? Yeah, I actually made a video talking more in detail about that because this is a question that I got a lot. So if you look up a video, type in the YouTube search like what you need to know before manifesting a specific person, Missy Renee, that video will pop up where I go a lot more into detail. And essentially, it was learning to imagine and become the version of me that was already in a long-term committed relationship with my specific person. Like getting familiar with the version of Missy Renee who is already married, who is already, well, actually, at the time, I didn't even know if I wanted to get married. So it was like the long-term relationship aspect. But who is this version of Missy Renee that is in a healthy, functional, loving relationship? That would mean, that version of Missy is trusting. She is compassionate. She is she feels safe. She feels secure within herself and her relationship. So I got clear on all these things, and then I started to see where I was dwelling, right? Like where I was in consciousness in that moment, where I was very fearful, I was very insecure, I was not trusting whatsoever. So I saw a clear contrast to where I was dwelling in consciousness and where I ultimately desired to be. And then I remedied that. But yeah, check out the video that I made talking more about that because, yeah, you should find it helpful. Click the like button, you lazy people. Yeah. Do not forget to hit like if you enjoy. Where was I? I'm new to manifesting an SP. Do we manifest in stages, like seeing SP more, or do we manifest just going straight to the end? Any tips and tricks? Love you, Missy. Oh, I love you too, Joe. Thank you. So manifesting in stages, and I've talked about this a few times in past videos. Uh, I know typically speaking, it's frowned upon. I don't see it as being a big deal. We do stuff like that all the time anyways. I would recommend if you are able to, and it usually takes practice, but if you are able to without resistance, go to the end. I always recommend just letting yourself go to the end in imagination because we can imagine anything, and we certainly don't want to limit ourselves or restrict ourselves in imagination. This really is a practice of not barring and not restricting ourselves and just letting ourselves imagine things because it feels good and we're able to do so. Nobody can stop us from imagining the desired outcome. That said, if you feel like there's a lot of like if it's a struggle to do so, if you're really finding yourself fighting your mind and that voice of reason, which is Satan, like literally from the Bible, um, if that voice of reason and logic and doubt is causing it causing a lot of difficulty, then manifesting in steps is fine. It's fine. What you wanna remember, though, if you're gonna take the step-by-step route and just imagine, like, SP reaches out to you, then you meet up, then reconciliation, continue to go to the next step in imagination. Because again, where people self-sabotage when they start to see movement and say the SP comes back into the picture, they get sucked right back into the 3D. They get sucked right back into their circumstances and essentially forget everything they learned. So don't do that. But so long as you continue to go more and more places that you want to experience, go places that are more desirable in your imagination, either way is fine. Yeah, Marcia, we don't always feel that strong emotion. We don't. Um, and I know that that can seem worrying because where we are right now in the state of desiring, like that's a strong feeling. Like there's a lot of emotions there. But think about if you've been married to your person for a few years, it's gonna feel like normal. It's gonna just feel like normal. It's not even gonna feel like it's not gonna you're not gonna feel those strong reactions and strong emotions. No. So that's kind of why and people typically panic. They're like, "Why am I not feeling all this amazing love and rainbows?" Because it just feels normal now. And that's how you know you did it right. Because if you are in the end with SP and the 2 of you are married, it's just gonna feel like everyday life. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's totally normal. When I first tried revision, it felt like super fake. Now I've been doing your revision meditation for almost 2 weeks and it's my favorite time of the day. Yes. Yes. I love to hear that, Mariana. Awesome. Awesome. And I struggled with revision too. Like I had not always been good at this when I first started. And I had a huge aversion to revision for the longest time. Like I didn't even let myself go there. Uh, like it wasn't until I was pretty much rock bottom anyways that I did. And now I absolutely I love revising the day. It's amazing. So yeah, do not let yourself be afraid of revision. It is your best friend, I promise. Um, where the hell's my spot? Sorry, guys, I'm not trying to take forever. I'm just trying not to, like, skip a bunch of people either. Hi, Missy. How do you feel about reality shifting and quantum jumping? I'm trying to manifest it. I want to see if you knew anything about it. Oh yeah, I've made a couple videos talking about shifting, moving within worlds. If you type in the search bar Missy Renee worlds within worlds, those should come up for you. But yeah, get familiar with the drowsy state. Is it good to stick? This is an important question. Is it good to stick to a strict schedule during manifestation? If so, what kind of routine do you suggest to someone who is into affirming and visualization? Um, that is going to depend. If you are already the kind of person that thrives with having a strict schedule, and that feels more natural for you to do, but the key word that we're always going for here is naturalness. So if we're trying to adhere to a very rigid schedule, it can feel very unnatural. It could start to feel like a chore. It could start to feel like a lot of work, and that's never going to be helpful. Um, as far as a routine, I mean, that if we talk about like a routine with a little bit of have allowing yourself some flexibility and just kind of, letting yourself get into a rhythm of things, that's different. That's ideal. Um, so I would say play around like what are the times of day that you feel are best for you? Like, are you a morning person? Do you feel like you've got more energy and you feel better in the mornings? Are you more of a night owl? And that's really your time of thriving. That sort of thing. We can play around with different times of the day, see what comes most naturally. Everybody's got work schedules and life schedules and all of that stuff. So we don't want this to feel forced. We don't want this to feel like so rigid. This should feel enjoyable, right? We like when we imagine, we want it to feel enjoyable because that's if we're talking about a desire that we have, imagining a desire, a wish fulfilled, that should feel good. If it doesn't feel good, then we're putting way too much effort behind it. There's way too much tense anxiety behind it. So, yeah, get familiar with your natural rhythm of things and just play around with it, have fun with it. That's going to be 1,000 times more effective than if we're trying to force ourselves to stick to a very strict schedule. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. Um, yes, thank you, Ian Z. I affirm and visualize and feel good, but then this creeping in feeling of, but how, or a belief that things won't move unless I do something comes in. Yeah, that's ego. That's ego. Don't listen to that. Don't ever listen to that. The voice of reason, the how. One of the things that we're gonna have to accept, and it just no matter what, we're not ever gonna know the how. Like the conscious ego mind, the self concept, as it's sometimes called, mostly referred to in this community, never gonna know the how. Never in a million years, and that's okay. We're not being asked to. We're not being asked to figure it out or know the steps on how it's gonna happen. All we're asked to do is imagine, go there, and really begin to identify more with the inner world than the outer 3D reality. Because when that things won't move unless I do something or how is this gonna work, that's all purely ego. That will sabotage. Like, don't listen to the that's, I guess, a part of, like, a self-surrendering. It's just accepting that we're never gonna know the how, and that's okay. I've had countless manifestations come to pass. I would have never, ever in a million years been able to conjure up how it would have unfolded that way. Like, I would have never been able to conceive that the pieces would all fall together in this exact manner. There's just no way. There's no way. So, whenever that feeling of, "But how?" comes in, just straight up, "I don't know. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you." But that ultimately is not what we're asked to do here, right? Continue to imagine. And same thing with taking action. Inspired action, is gonna be more or less unconscious. It's gonna be subconscious. You're not really gonna realize the actions you're taking are leading you to the unfolding until after the fact. It's usually not until hindsight that we can see that, "Oh, that was a bridge," right? "Oh, that all unfolded in a way that naturally led me to my desire." But while we're there, um, yeah, trying to consciously take action more often than not, it's gonna make things harder, not easier. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You are awesome. Oh, you. Thank you, Bluebird. Hi, Missy. What's your opinion about robotic affirmations? Can it impress the subconscious faster? Uh, so, and I have made a video about affirmations. Definitely recommend you check that out if you haven't yet. Just type in the search bar. But when it comes to robotic affirmations, I don't want to say it doesn't work. I don't like to speak in absolutes because there's some people that swear by it. And they had a lot of luck with it, but is it going to impress the subconscious faster for everybody? No. Mm. Everybody's gonna be different. This is a very subjective thing because we all imagine differently. We all have our own sets of beliefs, assumptions, um, circumstances, what we've conditions, things like that. Um, yeah. Robotic affirming, I'm not dismissing it entirely, but for me, what's worked best for me is when if I do use affirmations, which is not often, but anytime I do it with feeling. I do it I use affirmations that resonate and that help me to really tap into and capture the feeling of what that would be like, because that's really what we're going for here. The feeling is truly the secret. That is the language of the subconscious mind. And I know most often it's taught that it's big in this community now about robotic affirming, but um, that's very much a law of attraction teaching that kind of like got mingled in with this. Again, I'm not dismissing them. I'm not saying that they don't ever work, but more often than not, for people when they do work, it's because there was already a belief, or they already sort of resonated with the affirmations anyway in some form. Um, yeah, yeah. I would say don't affirm to the point where you're feeling like you're going crazy, because I've seen that. I've personally done that. I've seen that happen. If it's causing more stress, if it's feeling worse than better, stop doing it. Goes without saying, stop doing it. I did not believe the information, just had to trust imagination. Yes. Oh, I love Peter Gabriel. That was my first concert. Peter Gabriel is amazing. Another question about affirming to impress the subconscious mind. No, we don't have to affirm. Like, that's not a prerequisite. No. I never really use affirmations anymore. And think about, like, if we've been manifesting our whole lives, and we did it well before we knew about affirmations, we don't have to affirm 1,000 times for all the terrible things we manifested, right? Just saying. You guys are so sweet. Oh, I love you too, Yara. Trying to go back up. Hi, Missy. Past people are still showing up. Is this considered a partial manifestation? What to do? Um, yeah, yeah, essentially. And this is a very common phenomenon that happens, especially if we're trying to manifest a specific person. Will usually happens for a lot of people that we'll start getting people from our past showing up out of the woodwork, and expressing the things, saying the things that we want to hear from SP. Um, and yeah, I that's more of a partial manifestation, right? So perhaps if you've been focusing on the self-love aspect and feeling chosen, feeling loved, uh, feeling respected, things like that, then other people are going to reflect that. But if there's still a story about the specific person, like they're not reaching out to me, what are they doing? Why are they not here yet? Do they still love me? Are they with somebody? Like all of those things when it comes to our specific person, or if we're still like going over the history with them in our mind, that's that's the barrier. Yeah. So I would instead start imagining very specifically, like, how do you want your experience to go? And start seeing and imagining the version of you that is already in the loving, committed relationship with your specific person, right? And start to see and imagine that and start getting familiar with that aspect versus just generally speaking, if that makes sense. Do, 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 do. If everyone is you pushed out and we have a crush on someone, do we just assume that they feel it too? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we do. Where was I? On the point of everyone is you pushed out and revision, we also can't lie to ourselves when someone acts in a negative way, deceives, or lies to us. So imagining them differently can be a challenge. Understandably so. Yeah, and it can, e- especially when we're getting familiar. We have to remember first and foremost that this is a radically new way of thinking, right? We have spent decades living and thinking and believing, assuming things very different from the law and understanding that it's the imagination that is our true power, right? Not this 3D world of separation. Um, so yeah, we if we have an idea about somebody, if somebody did us wrong, if somebody did us dirty, um, and they hurt us, naturally it can feel difficult for us to imagine something different, change something different. And that is normal, that does happen. And that's why really first and foremost, like what we always want to be doing on the side of like trying to manifest our desired outcome, we have to continue to build trust and faith in the law. It's going to feel very challenging to maintain faith in all of this if we do not trust and believe that I as awareness, I am is the operant power. And through imagination, we create everything, whether we know it or not. Um, so continuing to build trust and faith in that way, and if when starting with revision, if it's helpful to revise through other like revising other things that may not be so emotionally charged and difficult for us can be another way of building our faith with this. So revising things that perhaps have less significance or less of that emotional charge, that don't evoke such strong reactions in us, for the pure sake of building our trust and faith in this, right? I mean, if we are able to imagine our person in a different light, that's always recommended, that's what we want to do. But if we are having a very difficult time doing that, then first continue to build your trust in this. Um, because if everyone is you pushed out, that we've selected these states where people have to like the actions of the state are already predetermined. Like from a state, we're going to be moved naturally, or another person is going to be moved naturally to do something, right? Every action is already like predetermined by the state of consciousness. So if we select a state that is not ideal, that person is going to show up in that negative way. Um, that's that's the understanding of states, right? So we really want to build our faith and trust that like if we are believing that everyone is ourselves pushed out, then we must have had an assumption or we must have had this belief that caused us to select the state unknowingly, right? We didn't do any of this consciously, but we unknowingly selected a state where this version of this person came through. And yes, it's painful. Yes, it's awful. It sucks. But if we continue to see the other person as like they're out there doing things to me, it's going to feel impossible to revise. So yeah, a lot of it falls back on building your trust and faith through revising other things. Perhaps just the more that you continue to observe, you're going to have a harder and harder time chalking all this up to coincidence. But yeah, completely understandable, completely normal. But rest assured, as you continue to build your faith, you will see that you can absolutely imagine a different version of that person. Because we can imagine anything, literally anything. We are capable of imagining anything. Nothing is impossible in imagination. So yes, we can see somebody in a different light in imagination. Where was I? There is no separation between what we imagine and the physical since all of it exists because we are aware of it, correct? Bingo. Meaning nothing is real, no thing is real unless we decide that it is. Yes. Yes. That's what that means. Exactly, Kitty. Exactly. And I know that from where we're used to looking at the like how we're used to viewing and seeing and perceiving life is very different, right? We are used to we're conditioned to see this physical 3D world and there's people out there doing things to us. Um, but that's not really the case. All of it exists, and whatever we are aware of, whatever we are selecting is what becomes our experience. Basically, yeah, there's no objective reality. And I know that one's going to be like very hard to accept, but I always tell people to look at the Nobel Prize winners for 2022 in physics who yeah, they won the Nobel Prize by proving that objective reality is it's not real. Crazy stuff, I know, but yeah. It's all the contents of our own consciousness, nothing more, nothing less. You are so welcome, Northwest Wind. My manifestation journey is fairly new, and I have had a few small successes struggling with the bigger desires. Meditation and subliminals are my daily go tos. Visualization is a little difficult. Well, welcome. Welcome. Yeah, if you are new to this world, new to these teachings, then very much welcome. Yeah, and where much of the struggle lies in these so-called bigger desires, that's because to us it feels much more unbelievable. The bigger things feel it's so much easier to condition the bigger desires, even though the law is working the same way for everything big or small. It's the conditions that we place on it that make it feel more difficult, more challenging. But how's this going to happen? That would never work, that sort of thing. So, this is really a practice of learning to do away with the conditions, doing away with the rational mind, the logic and reason, as some call it. Logic and reason, it's only taking the products of the 3D, the circumstances of the 3D, or our past experiences, and using it to constrict ourselves, like limit ourselves. Like we're building these walls and barriers in our imagination. Instead, what we want to practice is going anywhere that we desire in imagination because that is our power and we can always do so. It doesn't matter. The circumstances don't matter in imagination, right? Time is not real. It's all an illusion in imagination. None of that is a factor. You can do anything, go anywhere, be with whoever you want at any point in imagination. So it really is a practice of not restricting ourselves and continuing to build the faith that whatever we imagine is what becomes expressed externally, whether we're doing it consciously or not, right? Meditation is a fantastic practice. Yes, 100,000% recommend. Meditation is one of those. And of course, there's many different types of meditation, but it really, as far as helping to get the monkey mind under control, um, because I was very much like ADHD, like OCD brain, constantly going all the time. And from that place, this felt incredibly difficult to do. Um, even meditation felt difficult when I first started. It felt like it felt like my brain was on fire. But bit by bit, it's going to help you with the redirection. It's going to help you with the observation of the thoughts without latching to them, without reacting to them, learning how to redirect. That is going to be something that comes through meditation. And that practice I cannot recommend and stress enough. Visualization doesn't come naturally for everyone. This is true. I wasn't able to visualize when I was still new at this. Like I'd close my eyes and it was complete blackness. Now if I go into imagination, my surroundings feel and look just as solid as the room I'm in now. So it really is like a muscle. Um, don't try to force it. Don't try to beat yourself over the head with it. And if it's too difficult, you don't even have to visualize. This is about finding ways that we can imagine, ways that we can really allow ourselves to feel into this desired outcome, however works best for us, whether that's affirmations, whether that's inner conversations, whether that's visualization, doesn't matter. What ultimately matters is the feeling. So feeling is the secret. You are so welcome. Welcome, Carrie. I'm glad you could make it. Once SP comes back, can I manifest a good outcome of our dates and time together and still live in the end? Is it for married or is that messing with the middle? No. I mean, you can absolutely manifest anything you want. If you have a date coming up and you want that to go well, you can absolutely imagine that date going well. Imagine yourself uh, coming home that night and how good it feels that the date went amazingly, right? Um, yeah, we don't, and that is also part of living in the end, right? That would be the natural course of events that would lead up to marriage. Um, yeah, that's not messing with the middle. Messing with the middle is conditioning. It's conditioning our desires. It's saying that messing with the middle is saying, like, "I can't imagine SP and I together because he lives in another country or because there's a third party. I can't imagine having $1,000,000 because there's only $10 in my bank account," right? So we're not letting ourselves imagine the feeling of it. We're not imagining what this would be like. We're just we're letting the 3D keep us very constrained. We're basically limiting ourselves to the 3D conditions, and that will never allow us to see change, right? So that's what that means. You can absolutely manifest a good date and things like that. Yeah, we can change anything about our physical appearance. Absolutely. So I've noticed a couple questions that people have about their SP showing up differently, in an unwanted way. SP suddenly showing up rude or mean or anything like that. Don't accept the don't look at the 3D and claim that to be true for you. Because when we are doing that, we are only reaffirming, right? We are reacting or reacting out what we don't want. If SP is showing up a certain way in the 3D, revise it and imagine how you want them to show up instead. Don't ever accept. Okay, no. And that's what I mean. Like if we continue to do that, we're going to continue more of what we don't want. Um, but don't the robotic affirmations bring feeling? That's why they are chosen. Uh, so robotic affirmations is just saying the affirmation on loop over and over again, without feeling, without anything. Like you're a robot. Like I am loved. SP loves me. He chooses me. He's obsessed with me. Da 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 da. That's robotic affirmation. If you're affirming with feeling, that would not be robotic, right? Um, yeah. Where was I? Sometimes I don't have nothing to revise for the last 24 hours, so I just add something nice to my day and it feels really awesome. Yes. Yeah. And if perhaps nothing went bad in the day, if there was nothing that you feel like needs to be changed, you can also add something. Like if you would have liked something to happen that didn't happen, you can absolutely add that. Yeah, that counts as revising. It's not just getting rid of the bad stuff. It's also imagining that the day went the way that you wanted it to go. So that means including good things, right? Yeah, I love it. Dear Missy, what if the bridge of incidents takes too long? What if I want the thing in about a couple of months or so, but it would take even several years through the bridge of incidents? Well, first off, we never know what the bridge of incidents looks like. If we have a preconceived notion, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Um, because consciously, we will not know what the bridge looks like. We won't. Um, so we don't want to assume that something is going to take forever, even if it like rationally or logically seems like it would. Don't accept that. That is conditioning your desire. That is saying, I can't have like this is going to take too long. This is going to take forever. Time doesn't exist in your imagination. You can imagine whatever the outcome is that you desire, you can go there right now in your mind. You can experience that literally right now in your mind. You don't have to wait years for it. And that's textbook conditioning the desire. And if we continue to do that, yeah, that's what keeps us in limbo, right? So drop all notions of what you think the bridge looks like and just continue to go to the end. Can you talk a bit more about the way you structured your courses? Can we do them at our own pace? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For my courses, my master classes, they're all at your own pace, right? You have them forever. You can come back to the materials. You can really go over everything as much and often as you like, and take as much time as you need. Um, the self concept master class is 4 weeks. The SP1 is 5 weeks, but you don't have to complete everything in that time. No. It's totally work at your own pace. Hi, Missy. In the past, I have had manifestations come to pass even after not knowing if they would. I was very fearful it wouldn't happen, yet it did. How is that possible in accordance to the law? Good question. It's not about knowing that it is going to happen. Now, sometimes you will get to that place. Sometimes you will imagine to the point where it does feel like a knowing that something is going to happen, but not always. Not always. So long as like if you get to the place in imagination where it feels solidified, that feels real, like you walk in imagination as if you were there, that's all that it takes. That's all that it takes. This is not it's not a prerequisite that we have to get to a place of absolute knowing that this is going to happen. An example that I like to use is Neville's trip to Barbados. When he manifested that trip to Barbados, he had doubts the whole time. He was worried that it wouldn't happen. This was like the first thing he ever manifested consciously. But regardless, every night he would walk the streets of New York City, but in his mind he was in Barbados. He would imagine every night as if he was in Barbados, right? And naturally he went. So yeah, it's not that we have to get to a place of absolute knowing that this is going to happen in 3D. We do want to get to the place where it feels satisfied, it feels good, it feels done in imagination. I hope that makes sense. And so long as we do that, yeah, it will come to pass. Hi, Missy. When you revise the day, do you just make up scenarios you wanted to happen? What is the outcome of doing this? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, revising the day you're just imagining that the day went the way you would have wanted it to go, whatever that looks like. If that means that if something bad happens and you want to imagine something better, if you just want to throw in good things that happened because it feels better to do so, you can go nuts. And that's the beauty of this. We can get creative, we can go wherever, we can create the day however we wanted it to go. There's no right or wrong way to approach it, right? And the outcome is that we're gonna start to see the conformity of that in the 3D, right? Because revision will absolutely change in how the 3D is outpictured. Yeah. Y'all are so sweet, thank you. Our subconscious is infinite. I don't think we can ever saturate it. It really doesn't resonate with me. And that's fair. Yeah, that's a it's a play on words. That's a play on words. Basically, like when Neville speaks of saturation or of the mind, it just means getting to that place where we it's evoked a reaction from us. It elicits a response from us. We've imagined something to the point where it elicits a response. And that could be in the form of like a physical sensation. It could be in the form of like, a smile creeping over our face, like without us consciously doing so. Uh, Things like that. It can be an emotion. Sometimes it's just a feeling of relief. Sometimes it's a feeling of satisfaction, things like that. That's what that means. Um, yeah, yeah. But again, it's a play on words. When you talk about not knowing the how, reminds me so much of Eve and Satan and the tree of knowledge. Yes, it is. That's exactly, yeah. The story of Adam and Eve and the tree of knowledge is all about fear and doubt. There's a lot of symbolism in there, and I actually made a video talking about uh, the story of Adam and Eve from the mystic translation or the symbolism of that story. So you can check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. Um, if you type in like Missy Renee Bible or something, where I talk about the Bible, I specifically go into the story of Adam and Eve, but that's what that means. Like Satan is a representation of logic and reason and doubt, basically. Disguised as the angel of light, it seems to be all knowing, it seems to be protective, it seems like it's trying to, guide us into the right place, but it's only keeping us further away from God. It's deceiving, basically, is what that means. So yeah, remember, doubt is Satan. It is tricking you. What did I miss? When manifesting, why do specific feelings come up? Is it to be released? If so, how can we go about this? Just by wallowing in them? Thanks. Good question, John. And I assume you mean bad feelings? Um, when we imagine or when we're going about our day, why do specific feelings come up that are not good? I take it. Yeah, it's feedback, basically. It's all feedback. If we're noticing feelings coming up, if we're noticing reactions that are not ideal, it's all feedback. Telling us what we are believing, what we are assuming, and what state of consciousness we've been occupying, right? So it's all just feedback. It's not like why does it happen? Because we have been occupying the state based on those beliefs and assumptions, even if it's not ideal, right? Um, yeah, we just we want to observe them, we want to take note of them, and not try to suppress them, not try to bury them. We don't want to just try to, and that's why I'm not a huge fan of like flipping all your thoughts or just trying to pretend you're happy all the time because that's not going to work, right? If we're having a bad day, if something comes up and we feel sad or mad, okay, let it happen. Get it out. Get out of your system. Because if we do so, if we let ourselves just like have a good cry or just get really mad, give ourselves a time to be really mad, we feel better afterwards. It's like we can feel that release. We can feel that almost that sense of like, oh, I feel lighter now, right? And then we can come back and revise it. So yeah, that's how we go about changing those and redirecting. Love your channel so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jay. Do you believe that we only need to successfully plant the seed once for our manifestation to come to pass? What happens if we change our mind? Will it still happen? Good question. And short answer is yes. W- Once we leave an impression, like once we have sort of like once we have felt that, like if we're imagining something desirable, if we're feeling into something, um, to the point where it elicits a response from us, yeah, once that seed's planted, it will come to pass, unless we are double-minded. Um, Essentially, revision is the only thing that can upward an impression. I hope that makes sense. Hi, Missy. Is it considered a higher level of ability to not only manifest, say, money, but the when of the delivery of that money? Or is the actual time never really up to us? Good question. I mean, as far as is it up to us like consciously? Uh, I mean, no. Let me back up. If you desire to see something by a specific time, can you manifest that? Yes, we can manifest anything. Um, but I would not concern myself with the when. I don't concern myself with the when because the time that it takes for a manifestation to come to pass uh, is related to the degree of naturalness, like how natural it feels. Uh, are we noticing resistance to it? Are we noticing double-mindedness to it? Are we noticing that we're going back and forth with this idea? That sort of thing. That's what will create more time. What appears to us as more time. Um, yeah. So long as we continue to imagine, that's again one of the most important aspects of this is how frequently we're occupying that desired state in the day to day. How often are we living from the end in the day to day? That's going to also have a determination on when the manifestation will come to pass. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I would leave that up to awareness. Oh, Amy, I'm so sorry. So someone stole a significant amount of money from me. I'm trying not to beat myself up for creating it. Can I just assume that the bank does reimburse me because they keep declining the dispute? Oh man, absolutely, absolutely. I would go to the end of that reimbursement. I would imagine the relief you feel from that money returning to your account. I would I would keep my focus and attention on that and just continuing to go there until you feel that relief, like genuinely feel the relief that the bank accepted the dispute. I got my money back. Keep going back to that. Yeah, and don't beat yourself up. We don't ever need to beat ourselves up for creating something not ideal. We do it all the time. We're humans. We're not perfect in this human form. Not perfect. Um, yeah, continue to imagine and feel into that feeling of relief that the dispute is over, you have won, all your money has been returned. Logic and reason is useful when we want to remain in the same 3D. If we want to manifest new things, we have to go beyond them. Yes. Yes, Bluebird. Truer words have not been spoken. Yes, that's it. We must go beyond our logic and reason. Always. Guys, logic and reason is going to keep you chained to the 3D. I promise. We have to go beyond that. Logic and reason cannot exist in imagination unless we let it. And the only one that's letting us stay stuck in logic and reason is us. There none of that exists in 3D or in imagination. The logic and reason of the 3D, we do not have to take that with us we do not have to take it into consideration in imagination, and we shouldn't. If we wanna move past the 3D bullshit, gotta do away with it. Have to. Hi, Missy. How to imagine the opposite when experiencing something physical in the 3D? Advice on how to imagine not experiencing the physical experience and not pleasant in 3D. Thank you. Absolutely. Are you talking about like physical pain? Um, because when I made a video talking about my health journey. I used to have a very debilitating autoimmune disorder that would leave me with flare-ups that would like debilitating flare-ups that would last for days, like, sometimes even weeks. In those times, yes, it felt incredibly difficult. Like, if you are physically in pain, in that very moment, it can feel very challenging, if not impossible, to imagine feeling lovely or imagine feeling good, right? So I don't recommend trying to force yourself to do so in those times. Really, like, whatever you can do to help yourself soothe the pain, whatever you can help bring you some relief, I would do that and just try to really nurse yourself and get to a place where you feel better. And when we are feeling better, when we are experiencing those periods of no pain or have the energy and ability to do so, take advantage of the imaginal acts then, right? So we don't want to wait until the pain is upon us to try to imagine a better outcome. We really want to take advantage of those times where we do feel good and we do feel okay and really go into that, feel into that as much as possible in those times, if that makes sense. Hi, Missy. How to discern, oh, important question time. How to discern burnout from natural detachment? Good question. Natural detachment is not gonna feel like shit. Basically. Basically. Natural detachment is gonna feel a sense of it's either it's done or I don't need to continue to imagine this. Like, I don't need to continue to, like, fix my mind on this desired outcome. Like, that's gonna naturally fall away, because you can't continue to want something that you have, right? So, and that's what detachment is. It's detachment from the old state of consciousness, the old dominant state of being, that state of, longing and wanting and craving and all of that. So, burnout is exhaustion, crying all the time, feeling like you don't want to do this anymore, feeling like you're ready to give up. That's burnout. Yeah, and if we are burned out, take a break. Cannot stress that enough. Take a break. I know it seems counterintuitive. I know it feels like, "Oh, if I'm not imagining this thing 24/7, I'm never gonna get it or it's gonna get further away from me." That's not true. Trying to continue to push yourself past the point of exhaustion and burnout is going to make things worse. Like, yeah, ask me how I know. Uh, yeah, if you need to take a break, if you need to recharge your batteries, take care of yourself, rest, you know, your manifestation's not going anywhere. States of consciousness are eternal. Take care of you first. And I'm gonna make another video talking about this because mental health gets overlooked a lot in this community, and I'm not about that. Mental health has to come first, always. Conditioning is so stupid anyways. I'm gonna restrict my imagination, of all things? Never. I love it, Tyler. I love it. That's the spirit. Conditioning is stupid. Why would we restrict ourselves of something lovely in our mind? Why would we tell ourselves, "No, I can't imagine this lovely outcome"? Says who? Yeah. No, never do that. I love it. I love it. Alright, I got time for maybe 1 or 2 more. Marine Corps guy again. Only stopped by to say hi and will be setting up a session to give you an update. No more conflict of interest, so this should be good. Oh, I'm excited. Oh, I'm excited. His story is amazing. Not gonna spoil anything, but, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, and thank you for being here. Oh, thank you, Yara. What is the difference between affirmations and intentions? Are they the same thing? Good question. I'm similar. Yeah. An affirmation is essentially a statement, uh, like a statement of a present fact, right? Um, you are affirming something is true in this moment, in this present moment. And an intention is setting, yeah, it's saying this is this is the outcome. Like, I'm deciding that this is going to happen or that this is now my world, this is now my outcome. So, yeah, it's a deciding. Setting an intention is essentially deciding, basically. So, similar, very similar. Affirmations are usually, done more frequently throughout the day to day, but yeah, very similar. Did did your SP date other people during your separation? Mine told me he's completely moved on from me and that I need to stop thinking we'll ever be together. Oh, no, don't accept that. Uh-uh. And one of the most challenging things for us to do in this practice is not accept the 3D. Not accept the 3D. If somebody tells you something in 3D that is not ideal, revise it. Do not accept it. Because everything that's happening in 3D is all the outpicturing of our own assumptions anyways. If we change the assumption, the 3D will change. It has to. It has to. This is a law. Just as the law of gravity says if you go up, you will come back down. If you change the assumption, the 3D will change. Do not ever accept the bullshit of the 3D, ever. Did my SP date other people? Why would I take that into consideration? Why would I give my time to that idea? Like, no, don't let your mind occupy places that are not desirable. Why would we do that? That makes literally no sense. That is a form of like that's self torture. And we don't need to be masochists here. Do not accept anything that you don't want. Period. Hello, Bev. Hi. Hi. I did get your Facebook message. I will be getting right back to you. Greetings. It is so early where you are. Jaylene, you too. New Zealand, Australia. Y'all should be in bed. Thank you for being here. My question has to do with mental health. I'm not sure if you missed it. I'm so sorry, K-Bell. Maybe I did. I try not to. Mhm. I might have missed it. I am so sorry. Chat likes to jump around a lot. Follow-up question. So if we don't need to know that it's coming for certain and we can still be in the state while having doubts and fears, then how do we know we are in the state? You know that you're in the state because it will feel good. If you are in the desired state, it will feel good. If you do not feel good, you are probably not in the desired state. It Yeah, it is that simple. If we're noticing fears and doubts, well, that means that we probably want to combat that. We probably that's feedback saying for us, like, either we are not trusting the because we do wanna build faith. Faith is an incredibly important part of this. It's going to make do we have to have that knowing that this is going to happen? No. In order for it to happen? No, but is it gonna make life so much easier? Absolutely. All we wanna do is continue to not like, to continue to go there in your imagination where there is no restrictions, there is you don't have to doubt anything in your imagination because no one has free will in your imagination except for you. Nobody has free will and nobody can tell you no in your imagination. Nobody can like reject you in your imagination, right? So we're continuing to and we want to start to identify with that because in truth, we've been doing that this whole time anyways, just not even realizing it and doing it for things that are terrible and not ideal, right? Yeah. I'm not saying it's ideal to have doubts and fears. If we notice that, that is feedback saying, "Hey, you're not in the state you want to be in right now." But ultimately, what manifests is where we dwell more often than not. So even if we do have fears and doubts come up from time to time, if we're more often than not imagining and coming from a state that is ideal, that will ultimately come to pass, right? So it's where you're frequenting most often in imagination. The state that you occupy most often is what will express in 3D, basically. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Yeah, imagine because it feels good. If it feels good, you're doing it right. If it feels like you're trying to make it happen, maybe take a step back and say, I need to let myself relax into this." Right? Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all so much for being here. On that note, unfortunately, I do have to get going. I gotta go clean the house today. It'll be so much fun. But have a wonderful rest of the weekend, wonderful rest of the day, wherever in the world you may be. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Much love to each and every one of you. And I hope to see you all here next week. Same time, same channel. Bye, guys.